All right, ladies and gentlemen, Ebro and Laura and Rosenberg, mostly Ebro and Laura. But we got Earn Your Leisure on the program today, the big podcast. Introduce yourselves to the audience, man.
What's up? Thank y'all for having us. I'm Rashad.
I'm Troy, and it is an absolute pleasure to be up here.
I've been following you guys for a very long time.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that, man.
And our boy Ian Dunlap.
Shout out to
That's
Ian.
our guy. That's our
Shout out to
brother.
Ian.
Yeah, So before we get into Invest Fest, which is coming to Atlanta August 23rd to the 25th, like I've been investing for a long time. And when I seen some brothers talking about investing and, you know, especially like day trading and the whole like Red Panda movement that was going on and all that, I was following. I was like, let me see what's going on. I'm not a day trader and I know better. I'm an old ass man, so I already know I already know what I'm built for investing and what ain't for me.
That's important.
Right? But talk about Earn Your Leisure and the whole movement around what you guys do financially, what started it, and kind of like how it feels today.
Yeah, just democratize financial literacy and just business in general. Felt like for a long time, people were intimidated for the conversations of entrepreneurship, business, and investing. They thought you had to go to Harvard or they watch, you know, programming and you got to wear a three-piece suit. So it kind of boxes people out. But we knew that that wasn't the case. So we wanted to relay the information in our own way. Kind of like how Stuart Scott did with ESPN. Like, you know what I mean? Like now it's trendy, everybody does it. But at that time, sports was very stuffy. And he kind of came with the hip-hop references and stuff like that. So that was just organic to us. That's how we grew up already. So we wanted to just relay that information, blend pop culture with finance, and teach people. And it's something that started almost 6 years ago, just organically. And it just took off, word of mouth. And here we are now. So it's just been spread by word of mouth, social media, people telling a friend to tell a friend.
And were you guys friends before the podcast?
Yeah, I'm curious about your relationship.
We
Can we go
together.
back and how it started? Like, how did this start?
So we grew up together. I think I met him when I was like, I must have been 13. He might have been 11 years old. We was in middle school together. And I was new to the middle school, but I grew up in the neighborhood. I didn't know him.
And where y'all from?
We from Greenburgh, New York.
Okay.
Yeah, so shout out to
that's
Nama for
that's a small town in
White Plains.
Westchester.
Yeah.
So that also plays a part too because, you know, coming from Westchester, we always kind of like the underdog. People think of Westchester and they think like, you from Scar, you super rich.
Yeah.
So when DMX came out and the Locks came out, they gave us a great sense of pride because we was always there. But, you know, like
Mount Vernon,
Mount Vernon.
That's
Right.
the pin. Like X was the pin. So like when people say we from Westchester, they're like, "Where's that?" I'm like, "You know where DMX is from?" They're like, "Yeah, that place." Like,
Mary's from up there.
And Mary. Yeah. So like
Yeah,
those are that's how
a
Mount Rushmore.
lot of people, but you know,
Heavy D and the Boys?
Heavy
For
D and
sure.
the
Pete Rock.
Boys,
For
Pete
sure.
Rock. Yeah,
Hip hop know that.
CL Smooth.
Yeah.
Brand
Well, you from New
Nubian.
Rochelle.
Yeah, Brand Nubian,
Number
yeah,
four,
Sure. So, but like where we
Outside of hip hop, it was
It's tough.
Where we
Denzel.
Denzel.
for sure.
True.
That's a big one.
That's me, you know what I'm saying? Like,
It's a very small town, so he's gonna tell a story, but that's part of it. Cause like we grew up in like a 3-block radius,
Right.
but we all know everybody's related, everybody's cousins, everybody's, you know, family. So it's like it's a unique experience. Like we only 40 minutes outside of New York, but it's also kind of like a real like almost like southern as far as like how that small town feel is vibe. So that's kind of how
It's
we grew
suburban.
up.
It's technically suburban.
No, for sure, it's a fact.
it's definitely
for sure.
suburban, but it looked like us. Like when people think,
Suburbs don't mean we associate suburbs with whiteness.
With white-
and we,
with
just
white
like,
wealth.
and I never. By the way,
Yeah.
and I say this on the air all the time. I hate the word urban as it pertains to black people.
right.
Like, because that is a geographical location that doesn't necessarily have to do with complexion. Even though a lot of black people do live in cities, not all black people live in cities.
Yeah, and that's part of it. It becomes synonymous, right? When you think urban, you think black. When you think suburb, you think white. And we're like, well, we live in the suburbs, but everybody that lives in our neighborhood looks like us.
That's right.
And, you know, deals with some issues, not to the same extent of people in the city, but definitely issues. And so we grew up together playing basketball throughout high school. And then as a profession, you know, I went to be a teacher. So I was a teacher in the Bronx for like 8 years, then went to Westchester for 6 years. And was teaching phys ed, and like he was starting his career in financial advising. But you know, being in school, you realize what's not being taught, and financial education was one of those things. And so I had a summer program. I'm like, yo, I want to teach some kids. We're gonna pay these kids to be in this internship program, but we need to teach them about money. And at the time, he was just starting, so I was like, yo, let's do this. Like, we should like co-teach this thing, and we did, and found out quickly like kids loved it. Kids loved it, but their parents loved it too. And as we started doing that for a couple of years, people like started gravitating toward it. Like, what is that? What are y'all doing? Like, where can I find that program? Because he had the idea, let's scale this. Let's scale it. And I'm like, yeah, let's scale it physically. And he was like, nah, we should record this thing. And so he started recording the classroom sessions, putting it on social media, and people were like, whoa, I want that program here. And he kind of was thinking, let me create a career in the social media space where I can be a financial advisor. I can create clientele from that. And I'm like, yeah, let me scale this thing physically and get it. Yeah, this is in Westchester, but how I get it back to the kids in the Bronx that I used to teach. And social media just kind of took over. Right? He started doing interviews, and people were like, yo, where's that show? Like, where can we watch the rest of that interview? You got a show? You got a podcast? At the time, we don't even listen to the podcast. And he came to my house one day. He's like, we should start a podcast. I'm like, all right. Well, yeah, let's do it. And so we sat down in my dining room. We came up with some ideas to how to create one. We didn't have any training in media or technology in the sense of audio recording. So he was like, all right, well, let's just try to figure this out. And, put a list together, came up with some names. We had a few that didn't work, but Earn Your Leisure was a hashtag that he was using. So we're like, all right, that's ours. Let's go with that. And so Earn Your Leisure became the name of the show. And then we just started interviewing. We started with case studies of sports, entertainment, and business because we were naturally having conversations. Like, that was part of the thing. Like, we were already talking about that, but we realized that people didn't decode information the same way we did. And so it was like we're kind of letting people in our conversation. And then that shifted a little bit in the 10th or 11th episode when an entrepreneur came on and told his story, how he did business. And it was like, oh, we got something here. We need to highlight people and give them their flowers, right? Because the CPA and the, your mortgage broker and your trademark attorney, they're valuable, right? Like, we know athletes and entertainers are valuable, and that's how we look at it, but these people can actually help you in an everyday sense. So let's glorify them. Let's put them in position, because there's a 100% chance that the people listening can be those careers. Like, it's going to be tough for you to be LeBron James.
Right.
Like, that's not going to happen.
Right. But you can actually find this path.
There's like a gumbo. So we started looking at this is like the gumbo of entrepreneurship. Let's highlight as many careers as possible so people can see themselves inside of them.
I want to focus on entrepreneurship. There's always conversations about being your own boss, being your own CEO, all this. And I often tell people that ain't for everybody. Some people need to have a job. Some people need to show up with their assignment for the day, and that's the way that they are. That's their personality. Like, to be an entrepreneur is a certain personality. It ain't easy. It ain't like you just become an entrepreneur and you getting money like that. Most entrepreneurs are living a kind of invoice to invoice, cycle to cycle kind of life.
Struggling.
Rashad, talk about the advice you may give to somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur.
It's not for everybody, but I also feel like a lot of people are discouraged from being an entrepreneur from the beginning. So even if it is for them, they never actually get to explore
They never
that,
take
right?
the swing
Because
at it.
if you think about it, how we're trained to be employees. From the time that we go to school kind of is the first step to teach you that routine. Mm-hmm. Like, you check in at 8 o'clock, you check out at 3 o'clock, you have a lunch break, you go to class. So it puts you in that structure, and then you get the job. So by the time it's time for entrepreneurship, most people, that's out of the realm of possibility for most people. So I just encourage people just to think outside the box. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can also do it while you're working a job also, right? Like, even him, he was a teacher during the day, and then we started Earn Your Leisure at nighttime. So I was an entrepreneur, but he was a full-time worker, and then he was a part-time entrepreneur until the point where now he's a full-time entrepreneur and he's not working a regular job anymore. But we do need more entrepreneurs. So it's a narrative that's like entrepreneurship's not for everybody. That's true, but I mean, when you
try it though.
It's black people. We only make up 2% of the entrepreneurs, and we only employ the average black entrepreneur doesn't employ any people. So it's like, if we talking about this wealth gap, a large part of that is business, and a large part of that is scalable businesses. So I think that we do need to encourage entrepreneurship more. Because a lot of times it's discouraged, and it's saying don't do that, it's too risky. But the people that are the wealthiest people in the world are entrepreneurs. So I do think that there's a balance. We shouldn't make every single person an entrepreneur, but we should encourage it to young people because we need it. We definitely need entrepreneurs for sure.
How will you know if entrepreneurship is for you?
I mean, it's something that, again, it was calculated, right? It's like, for me, it was 9 to 5. It was going to school every day and then testing this out. I'm watching entrepreneurs. I'm being around it. I'm understanding their work schedule. I'm understanding their work ethic. I'm understanding the difficulties, right? There's times when, they might not get paid this month. And, how are they supposed to pay their bills? And so I'm watching that and I'm calculating, I'm like, is this for me, right? Because I wasn't an entrepreneur, but I was watching them. And then you start to realize that you have characteristics inside yourself already that exist. I always used to say, even working inside of a school, I never had a boss. And they'd be like, nah, the principal's the boss. And I'm like, nah, he's not my boss. Like, we work together. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has to do his job. Then the school looks good. I do my job, and then he looks good, and then I look good. And so the real boss are the people that we're in front of every day. So that mindset, like the kids were my bosses, it was like, that's the entrepreneurial spirit in me. Sometimes you just have it in you, you don't know it's there until you have people, you surround yourself with the people, you realize the work ethic, you understand the intricacies that come into it, and you realize it's on you, right? Like, there's something about having a guaranteed paycheck that feels comfortable, but there's nothing like creating something for yourself and not having a potential ceiling on what you can make. And so when you realize that all those factors are inside of you, you're like, all right, this is something I already have inside of me and I can actually like flourish in. But if and all else fails, I mean, I can always go back to being a teacher. Like, how many chances do I have to change the world?
Right. What would you say are the most common mistakes that you guys have seen with young entrepreneurs or young people that want to get into the world of investing? Like, what are the most common mistakes that they make?
I mean, so I was a financial advisor before this, so I used to work with a lot of small businesses. So I understand small business on a very detailed level. And one of the biggest mistakes of any small business is having overhead that's too much. So like most store businesses, like you're gonna start a brick and mortar business, right? And let's say, okay, you can cook good. So, okay, now I want to start a restaurant. You don't really know the economics of running a restaurant, but you know how to cook, right? You're setting yourself up to fail because, you know, in any business, it's ups and downs as far as how much money you make, especially in the beginning. But so the revenue is up and down, but the expenses stay the same or even increase. So it's like you don't get paid for a month or 2 weeks, but you still have to pay the chef. You still have to pay the light bill, the cable bill, all of these things.
The lease.
Right. So you don't you haven't fully thought this out, right? And usually you don't have a lot of savings. So you got to max out your savings. You cash out your 401k. You put it on the credit card. Now you're going to go to your friends and family, and then that's not sustainable. Before you know it, you shut your shop down. So I always encourage people to start businesses with low overhead, especially in the beginning. Like even for us, we started a business. There was no overhead, you know, as far as we recorded in his house. We have microphones, and, you know, that's not a lot of money. A laptop, we already have that. That's a sustainable business. Even if we're not making money, we're not pressured to make money at the beginning stages. So that's important. Also, starting businesses that's not scalable. Once again, a lot of times in our community, we start businesses that are local, where like we have a restaurant, we have a barbershop. No disrespect to those businesses, but 9 times out of 10, that's not going to scale. You're putting yourself in a position where you're just going to end up working a job, but you're your own employer, right? You're going to have to work 15 hours a day, and you're never really going to be able to be financially free. Like you said, most entrepreneurs struggle. So it's like, yeah, you're an entrepreneur, but that's not really a pathway to like real wealth, right? So when you start businesses that can scale, now instead of having a clothing store, maybe you start an online boutique, right? Now you can ship clothing to Australia, you can ship clothing anywhere, right?
And your overhead is already, you got a room in your house that you're using as your fulfillment spot.
Your dining room is your fulfillment.
Exactly. So I think what happens a lot of times is you have a great idea, you get gun-ho, you save all your money, you go into business, and it doesn't work out. Now, you know, your family, they're like, I told you so, it wasn't a good idea. Your significant other is, you know, beating you down because you can't pay the bills or whatever, and then you just get so discouraged from it that you're like, nah, I'm never doing this again, right? So you got to set yourself up early to have success. Nothing is guaranteed, but when you think things through properly and have a full understanding, then you'll be better prepared.
You know, we watch a lot of white boys get to run through money and just blow money, right? Like we see it all the time. We see white CEOs get to fuck up businesses and nobody don't say shit. Right. Or you just see even like venture capitalists where you'd be like, yeah, I just started and you're like, where did how? And it come to find out their grandfather had a relationship with a bank, and because the head of the bank knows they auntie or mama or whoever, now they get $5 million to figure out what they want to do. So a lot of, in the financial world, and people may or may not know this, is based on relationships, right? And a lot of us don't have those relationships. We don't have generations that have been involved in banking and investing in real estate and these other things because of the dynamics and the racism and white supremacy of just where we are. How have your relationships flourished now that you have, over the last 6 years, been doing this, having these conversations, some young, positive black men doing great things? How have those relationships for you guys to access capital to do more have grown because of consistently, delivering this information?
Well, we still have never taken outside capital, so we have not actually raised money or taken access to capital. But access to capital is a very big thing.
Yeah.
We've made great relationships with people like Robert Smith and Don Peebles, and even they actually educated us to a lot of the things where it's like, I think it's like $1 trillion out there as far as for private equity and venture capital, but less than 1% of that money goes to black entrepreneurs, right? So now you can start to see, okay, when we're talking about the wealth gap, now there's nuances in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you start to understand, okay, well, how can you grow? There's 5,000 companies on the stock market, but only 6 are black companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the companies that are scalable. So we're talking about tech companies, but in order for Facebook to become the meta that it is now, Mark Zuckerberg has to have the ability to go out to Silicon Valley and raise money on an idea. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not like he is a proven entrepreneur.
People got to believe in his ideas.
It's not, but that's what I'm saying. But it's not even like he has a track record.
Right.
Right. This is a college dropout for all intents and purposes, who's socially awkward, who can raise millions of dollars off of his idea. We could have a PhD with 20 years of history and still can't raise money. So that's a very, very, and we even spoke to the vice president about that, and she was saying that was one of her initiatives.
Kamala.
Yeah, that was one of her initiatives before she got the nomination to run for president. But to answer your question, we have not raised money, but we have been in such environments with so many different great people that have educated on us even more.
People have been making the offers, though. They've been trying to send y'all some money. Because, it's like, I already know.
I will say that
I already know y'all get the credit card emails, but y'all get it from big names. It's like, we got some money for you if you want it.
People are continuing to educate us in the space. But, I mean, that goes back to the origin of why we created the show. It was to highlight people of importance. So how many times in a conversation in the barbershop are you talking about venture capital? Right? How many times are you talking about scalable business until these conversations are now commonplace? But even like when we look at it, especially for us, right? Like if I asked to name, people in the venture capital world, we can name probably 4 that look like us, but we can name them, right? Like if I said in other communities, it'd be endless, right? So like even the people that are at this space, the Robert Smiths, the Don Peebles, even the Cheryl McKisnicks, who are incredible in the world of real estate. Outside of her, she's 6 generations in. Right. Like we don't see that.
Right.
Don Peebles, that's generation 1. Robert Smith, first generation. Right. Even like our celebrities, Jay,
Beyonce, first.
They're all first generation. So what
as far as wealth?
As far as wealth, right?
Yeah.
And so like there's going to be mistakes, but there's a grace period. But let's see what happens, because we know when we talk about sustainable and generational wealth, like we know by the 3rd generation, it could phase off. Whereas we're trying to create education around the wealth, where it now becomes a Carnegie, it becomes a Rockefeller, it becomes a DuPont, these families that just historically have had wealth generation after generation after generation. But we have to make sure that the education is there, the issues are being addressed, and we have people in representation. Because part of the reason that venture capital is not being awarded is because who are the people that are saying yes or no? They don't look like us.
They don't look like us. We don't have those relationships.
So we have to create the people inside the space to now make systemic change.
So both whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat, they both care about money.
Facts.
Democratic politicians is up there making cake too, playing the stock market.
100%.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi, the biggest.
A legend. She's a legend.
Getting money, right? Getting money. And it's done legally, it's done above board. It's not like it's hidden, it's public. You can look it up, it's public information. Why is there so much? Because to me, money's not political, right? It shouldn't, because if you look at it, everybody that is participating in this capitalist society is trying to get to the money some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. It's you get into taxes, tax breaks, this, that, and the thing where it becomes now you start to get in the political party, who's giving the best and who's doing what and blah, blah, blah. Who's spending more, who's all the things. why do you guys think the money conversation, because when I talk about money, people often say I sound like a Republican, right? Because I tell people all the time, like, I'm fiscally conservative. Now, the reason I normally don't vote Republican is because y'all racist. Y'all too cuddly with racists. Like, I can't fuck with y'all. I can't do it.
Fair enough.
I can't do it. And then y'all got the crazy religious people. It's just too much going on over there.
You're stripping people of rights?
Yeah,
like,
just taking women. I can't fuck with y'all.
Yeah,
right?
fair.
But from y'all, why do you think it becomes the money conversation? Not the social stuff, but the actual money parts.
I think that, well, it's all a game. I think the Democrats do a good job at kind of pandering to working, middle class, poor people. But like you said, even the elites in the Democratic Party, they rich.
Yeah.
But, you know, that they understand that that's their support base. Just like the Republicans pander to uneducated, poor, white. That's again, they're not that. Donald Trump is not really on it like that, but he knows that he has to, right?
And he want to get to that money.
Right, exactly. So, but at the end of the day, like you said, the tax code was made for wealthy people. It was made for entrepreneurs. It was made for investors. So no matter who's in office, the wealthy is always going to get wealthy, and the poor is always going to stay in the same realm. So I think we look at the political landscape from an emotional standpoint a lot of times. Like even with Don, people was talking about, like Henry Kissinger said something about American foreign policy a long time ago, that America has no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, just permanent interest. That's what we have to understand as a community. Like, we shouldn't have an alliance to the Democrats. We shouldn't have an alliance to the Republicans, but we should have an alliance to our personal interest. And we should hold both parties accountable. That's when you have more emotional intelligence and maturity. Like, they get us with triggers. Like, you know, the racism is a trigger thing, but everybody's racist. If that was a deciding fact, then we couldn't even live in America.
But what do you say to someone who, like me, I'm a woman, and I see how women are literally, like, dying. And, you know, they're fighting for their reproductive rights. And we see these cases, the more I see in different states, like, it's actually affecting people's actual lives. So sometimes when I say, oh, just being emotional, I'm like, well, that's because women are dying.
Yeah.
No, for sure. It's triggering on a variety but it's so many different issues that's triggering. When you look at foreign policy and wars that's being fought and mass incarceration and the war on drugs. So there's definitely social issues that are important to be fought for. But once again, that all comes down to economics, right? Like, we don't have the power to hold politicians accountable because we don't fully understand how economics work. Super PACs, we don't understand how to, like, fully lobby. We don't understand how to actually hold people accountable and say, like, if you don't do what we want you to do, we're going to fund your opposition. We just saw that.
And we've seen it with Jamal Bowman. We've seen it, yeah.
Exactly. That's literally what happened. He didn't do what a super PAC wanted him to do.
over there,
And they put $20 million.
They weren't talking about, you know, the government of Israel the way he was talking about.
But guess what? It works. It's unfortunate, right? It's an unfortunate reality, but it works. And they made an example out of him, and his colleagues know, okay, is it worth it? Is it worth me losing my seat? Is it worth, who knows what his future is going to be, right? They could probably hold that over his head in a variety of private sector jobs that he's trying to get. So, but we can do the same thing. But what issues are we focused on? Is it access to capital? Is it reparations? Is, like, we have a lot of different things, and we don't even agree on most of the things. You know what I'm saying? We fight within ourselves. So first thing, I think the Israel thing is powerful because they're all online. Not every single Jew, but probably 80%, right? So they have a strong front. And of course, they have enough money, and now they're funding it in a very efficient manner. And that's why, like I said, that's why that worked in that situation. So we could do the same thing, but until we actually do that, we're just going to be used as pawns. Yeah. And they play off of our emotions.
Well, the same way they use Jewish people as pawns. They do the same thing. We talk about that on this show all the time. Because most of them white supremacists, they not really fucking with Jews like that.
Hello.
You know what I'm saying? So, but conveniently, because it serves America's interests over in Israel for geographic location and controlling the Suez Canal and all of the shit they trying to do over there to keep checks on Iran and all that, they don't want, you know, we talk about it a lot up here because when we have an AOC up or, you know, myself going on tirades about Netanyahu being racist and all the shit I talk about, you know, we've been on that type of time. So I watch it from a different, I guess, seat, right? Because I get to see the games that are being played. And you're right. We don't coalesce financially around issues. We don't put our money, and the primary issue that black folks coalesce around is making sure racists don't have power, even though there's racists that have power already in the financial systems, in the political systems, everywhere.
system.
So so really it comes down to overt racism and covert racism. That's really all, that's the only game you got.
Yeah, you got it. And also the economics part, like going back to even like Bowman, we watched that. But think about how much money was raised to fight against him.
Right.
Historic, right? Like over 100.
That lets you know he was on the right type of time.
Over $100 million was spent.
They were scared,
in a
bro.
very, like, I mean, this is a small district, right? To make sure that he didn't have that seat. Like you said, when it comes down to us, think about how many people you know that donate to a political campaign. $20, $10. You know what I'm saying? We don't even know the price. That's why the education piece is so important because, yes, number one, we should have our interests aligned. We don't know what our interests are. We can't commonly say, like, we all in this room agree that these are the interests that we're going to fight for. And then fiscally, how do we put the capital behind it to support it? Because we're still living in this rat race of check to check to check to check. So there is no disposable income to say, all right, well, I'm going to put $1,000 to this campaign. I don't know what that's going to turn into. But if we unify on that and we have income, like we start investing, we understand financial education, it's like, all right, well, these are the interests. We all got to support it. Here's the capital. Make sure we win.
So on that note, and you get to Invest Fest, right? It's going down in Atlanta August 23rd through the 25th. Y'all got tons of celebrities, tons of artists, tons of great conversations, panels. This is the 4th year.
Big names, bro.
Big name.
50 Cent,
Talk
Steve
about
Harvey.
Yeah.
Let me see. Damon John.
Yeah.
Lauren London, Stephen A. Smith, Monica. Let me see.
She's
Pinky
singing or
Cole.
talking about money?
She's singing.
Okay.
Okay. Pinky Cole, which we love. We had her on the show a couple times.
Incredible.
Van Jones, Wyclef, Will I Am. It goes on and on.
So a lot of people will come out for the entertainment. A lot of people will come out, hopefully try to get in the conversation or learn something or meet someone, right? Invest Fest, though, the question I have is, how do you make sure, and I guess it's not on you guys, it's on the individual themselves, but I want to have this convo, that you ain't got people running up in there that, are throwing away their last thinking that it's time to invest, right? Like, and kind of going back to where we started the convo, like we talked about entrepreneurialism, but how do you even know if investing is for you?
So I think we always lead with education. So it's a very delicate line that we have to walk because it's called edutainment, like KRS-One kind of.
Shout out to KRS.
So our people do like to be entertained. There's no way around it.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is, right?
Everybody like to be entertained.
For sure, but we like to be entertained at even.
I think the percentage is a little bit higher. Yeah.
So,
but
you think we over-index on entertainment?
We over-index on it, and we also look at it as our first career path. So when you grow up, it's like, yo, I'm going to the league. Or I'm a rap.
Right.
Whereas other people look at it as, that's just entertainment.
Right.
I'm going to Wall Street.
Yeah.
So we do have, so it's always, we add the entertainment in there because that's the hook, right? Mm-hmm. But what's underneath there is all education. So it's like the iceberg. You might see the tip of it is 50 Cent, but then there's 80 other people that's speaking that you probably never even heard of. So throughout the course of the weekend, we have panels on artificial intelligence. We have panels on, first time home buyers, stock 101, crypto, credit. So I feel like it's never done in an irresponsible manner where it's like, oh, put $100,000 on Dogecoin.
Right, you're not telling people
tomorrow.
where to invest.
No. So it's done from a very fundamental, like that's my background as a financial advisor. So it's done from a very conservative. It's actually done from a very conservative manner. It looks flashy because there's flair on it. But when you go there, then you understand, like, oh, no, this is actually real education, right? So we're not trying to sell nobody a dream. It's not like you're going to just become a billionaire tomorrow, right? Or we're not trying to just, hey, buy this home and then, 6 months from now you can
spend $200 on your registration and you'll be the next millionaire.
Refinance that home.
But it's a slow grind, right? Like, if you educate properly, you can change your life.
Yeah.
Like, if you meet the right people, you can change your life. But I feel like,
but you also got to be willing to do the work.
You have to be willing to do the work, and you have to be willing to constantly educate yourself. It's not like a one-time thing, right? Like education is, people get turned off of education because they think of education in a school setting. Mm-hmm. And most of us had bad experiences in school. Like, I don't know too many people that liked school. Like, even when he was a teacher, I'm like, I never understood that. To me, that's like an inmate breaking back into jail.
He was so discouraging to me.
If you go to school your whole life, why would you want to go back into the school system? I understand that it's a need for it, but I hated school that much. But I never hated learning. I always liked learning. I just didn't like how they were teaching me or what they were teaching me. So education is lifelong. Like, we can never downplay education. We just have to do education reform. And that's part of what we're doing is education reform. Like, you can learn outside the four walls of a classroom. So that's important to keep in mind. Like, it's a lifelong journey. You always have to stay educated. Even with AI, like, there's so much stuff that's coming out. Like, who would have been having a conversation about ChatGPT 5 years ago? This is damn near magic, the stuff that you can do with artificial intelligence now. And imagine what it's going to be 10 years from now. So that's what we try to do with InvestFest. We just we have so much other stuff. We have everything. We got all the music festivals. We got Essence Festival. And I love all of those. Those are great. But I feel like we should just have something where, it's for people that want to learn, better themselves, learn, network with people, and that's why we created InvestFest.
And even when you see 50, like, yeah, we know 50 Curtis, like, Jackson, but, like, this isn't about get rich or die trying. This is about the businessman, right? So we got to talk about what's happening in the world of film and TV. We got to talk about what's happening in Shreveport, Louisiana. We got to talk about what he's done as far as licensing for the clothing. So, like, this is a business conversation. This isn't like, let's talk about many men and how Donald Trump is using it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's really have a conversation, because not only are you inspiring, you're aspiring people that are in that audience. And you're getting tutelage from a guy that we had at our stage, Tyler Perry. And so this is a business conversation, which is different. How many times have you seen him sit down for a 45 to an hour-minute conversation about business? It's a game changer.
No, I love that. I have a festival too called Envision Fest.
Yes, you did.
Thank
you. Just happened. Congrats on it.
But I will tell you, my demo is like, my core is young women. I'm talking 16, 16-year-olds. And more, they want to know, how can I be an entrepreneur? How can I learn more? So now we're dipping into finding partners for financial literacy, because these young women are eager to, like, learn. So, and I feel like it's because, like, your show has something to do with it. I feel like more people are talking about possibilities and they see themselves in you. So I love that. So congrats.
I saw that. I was like, we got to figure out how to work together.
Yes, I would love that. I would love
when
that.
I was watching the clips on Instagram, one of the pieces was like, and we're talking about financial education. I'm like, this is great. And, that's part of what he said. Like, we're trying to create education reform. So not only for the show, but, like, let's go back into the schools. So we're creating curriculum that's going to go back into the schools because it was missing. And if you think about it, why would it be? It's like a life skill. Like, nobody teaches you how to pay taxes. Nobody teaches you about real estate.
Credit.
They don't want you to, because they just want you to get a job.
Because I can
work in the system.
Literally, most people fall into heavy debt first year of college because you get that shiny credit card and you're like, swipe away.
Forget the credit card, the tuition.
Yeah, that too. Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's like, who's teaching you about that process? Who's teaching you about financial aid? Like, nobody's doing that because, again, if I teach you, then you'll have the education to make a better decision. If I don't teach you, then I can prey on you.
Your parents own the house you grew up in?
Yeah.
Your parents own the house you grew up in?
No, they don't own the house I grew up in. They do. We own a house now, but that's part of financial education too. Like the trauma of having a house and losing a house because not knowing.
So they owned it, lost it.
Lost it. Yeah, we bought a house in '89, moving up to Greenberg, and had a situation where they had an interest rate that was adjustable.
Oh, them arms will get you.
Yeah, but my parents are immigrants, right?
They've come
from Jamaica.
Know what that was.
They don't know what a fixed or adjustable rate is, so they just trying to move us out of the South Bronx, and they're like looking for a better opportunity for their family, and they did it. And you watch something that you can afford turn into something very quickly in 3 years. That's something you can't afford, and now it's from moving on up, you're moving back on down.
Well, and the reason I bring that up is because for people watching this convo and they don't understand kind of the geography of New York and what Westchester represents, Westchester is a place where people moved from the Bronx. Just like Queens is a suburban, get a house in Queens. It was a place you moved to get a home, or Long Island or whatever.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because when you think about it, did that somehow shape? Because I can see between y'all, you're very logical. There's no emotion tied to decisions that you make. You're a little bit more touchy-feely, pause, with the kids and the school and the, what I mean? But and the reason I ask that is because, you went through something traumatizing as a kid, you know what I'm saying, that probably shaped who you are today and your personality.
Not even realizing that it was traumatizing, just realizing that you're moving through it.
Right.
And then when you go back and start to realize how your parents are moving through the world and how they're making decisions, a lot of it goes back to that. And how I'm looking at making decisions is based on that. Like, they don't want to take risks, so I have to take risks.
Right.
So a lot, like, you don't understand your financial trauma till it's in front of you and you face it. and you understand it a little bit better, and you realize how can I change that, right? Because I have kids too. I don't want that to be their story.
And for you, you seem like it was more like mom and dad was on you about finances, like that was a part of the house.
So my mom was a teacher, so she's kind of like, she was always she's kind of anti-entrepreneurship because she's a very like, I want to know I get paid every 2 weeks, and entrepreneurship, there's ups and downs.
Right.
But my dad was always an entrepreneur, but I got it from a different side because I got to see ups and downs, like, you know what I mean. So it's like when you're a kid, you don't fully understand everything that goes on in your household, but when you get older, you can start to you make sense of what you heard, right? And it's like, okay, now I understand it. Like I can understand some arguments and different things of that nature because it's like, all right, I didn't get paid this week. You know what I'm saying? But you did get paid this week. So it's like, so I'm like, oh, okay, now
that's why Miles was like, get a job. And he was like, nah, I got a dream.
Get a real job.
It all makes sense. But for my dad, I always appreciated that fact that he had freedom. And, being able to, like, go to my games and take me to – I used to play basketball, so, like, take me to practice. I used to play basketball over the city, drive me to the city and stuff like that. And that was a luxury that a lot of my other friends' parents didn't have. Like, I didn't grow up in a place where there was a lot of –
had that.
I ain't had that. Yeah,
So I always looked at it, like, even for now, like, the money is cool, but to me, the freedom is the most important thing. So I always appreciated that, and that was something that I always wanted to – ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So definitely he was a major influence in that, because just seeing him, going to his office, like that was cool. Like, see somebody have an office, like, you know what I mean? And like I said, being able to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, like you just.
His office was like Furious Styles. The Boys in the Hood. Where he had like,
That's a lot. Yeah, very similar. Very similar.
The fact.
Very similar.
But it's interesting because that definitely it does play a part in like how we view things, right?
Yeah.
And like he said, him coming from an immigrant background, a lot of people, you're an immigrant, you're just trying to assimilate into society, right? And so now that level of like, don't push things too far, like let's just do, a lot of people don't even fully know how to, the banking system.
That's right.
That's something that we want to talk about, like EYL Espanol. Like I feel like there's a whole Spanish community that has been left out of the conversation as well, because I don't know, it's a different, but there's a larger population in America than anybody really, and it's like how many
of the marginalized groups,
right? How many people don't even fully understand how to buy a home, or how to use a credit card, or how to open, and then they're too scared
or open a bank account.
They feel ashamed. Like even we talked to Jeezy. This is crazy. We interviewed Jeezy. He said that he had $1 million check from Def Jam and he never cashed it for 18 months until Jay-Z called him like, yo, bro, you gonna cash the check? What are you doing? And he said the reason why he didn't cash the check is because he didn't know how to cash a check. He thought a check was a voucher, like an IOU. And when it was time to use it, then you just bring it in.
He didn't know that on the back it said 90 days.
He never, he
exactly.
never.
Not real.
And so he said he never, and then he said he was also very embarrassed to be a grown-up and to be rich and have all these cars and not know what a check is. Like, so he was scared to ask somebody at his label, like, yo, what do I do with this check? Because he's like, yo, this shit is like really, it's like not knowing how to read almost, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like financial literacy is definitely something that's real, and it's something that a lot of times people are too ashamed to talk about, and that's not a recipe for success. That's just a recipe just to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah, we often, so the reason I never even invited y'all on until now, and I've been following y'all, is because I've always felt like the conversations you guys have on the podcast is not necessarily 101, right? Conversations I have on the show are literally, we tell people, I'll go on the air some days and be like, yo, you walk into the same bank every week, and you don't know the name of the person sitting at those desks around the bank, but your money is being used to make them more money.
Fact.
And they charge you money to access your money. Mm-hmm. Go in there and learn them people's names and make sure they know your name. Just do that today, right?
Yeah.
To the point where not only do they see you, you see them, but now you can start asking them questions about just terminology, right? Like, because I wasn't taught the terminology. I just started reading and listening and trying to, understand and navigate. Those commercials that you see where it's like, oh, your retirement, call Charles Schwab. There's literally people paid to pick up the phone and answer all your questions. There's people calling from all over the place that don't know shit about nothing. The job is literally, hey, I have a question. They're not going to charge you for that, just to get you on the phone and have a convo. But I think asking the question is that embarrassment because they assume everyone else knows. Right. And the truth is, everyone else don't know.
Well, another part of education is that you have to have some level of education to ask a question.
Right. You got to know what question to ask.
You got to know what question to ask. If you're not even educated enough to ask a question, you don't even know what question to ask.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
right.
right.
I think even that banking analogy is perfect, but we're dealing with a community that we're trying to convince that you should stop going to check cashing.
Right. Facts.
Oh my God. Yes.
ASAP.
Like we can't even, we got to get to that point.
Yeah.
Like, listen, do you understand what's happening when you go to check cashing and how they're making money and how they're charging you like 8%, like 7%, like to take cash?
Or what is that other shit they be doing? Payday loans?
Yeah,
and
right,
shit?
payday loan. And I'm like, yo,
Yo.
look at your check that you just got. Usually there's a bank that's titled. You can go to that bank and cash it.
Yeah.
No charge. Or you could open a bank account and have that directly deposited. But like that's a process because if you think about where check cashers, I don't see them in Scarsdale
They in bad neighborhoods.
because we don't have the
Or
education.
low income, however you want to turn it. The other interesting piece too, you got the check casher convo, you have the fear of the terminology, part of the conversation, the actual learning and not wanting to learn. And I also think that, there's a segment of the population that it's almost like, and this is, by the way, this is all walks of life. The devil you know is worse than the devil you don't. They would rather take the shit they understand, no matter how shitty it is, versus the fear of dealing with the fear and the potential disappointment of trying to go and make a move to learn something new or change their circumstance.
When we don't know what to do, we do what we know.
That's right.
So it's like, we know certain elements and that's easy, that's comfortable for us. But stepping out of the comfort zone is very frightening. So when you don't know what to do, you resort back to doing the things that you're familiar with. And that happens across the board and everything, right? Like people are scared. So
Relationships, all that shit.
Most people just live in fear. Exactly. Like, you know what I mean? Like they'll stay in a bad relationship because it's like, I'd rather be miserable with somebody that I'm comfortable with, that I know, as opposed to being happy with, now I got to go this is a risk.
I gotta go unlearn and try to find this thing
That's
and
a
do
fact.
it over again. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it goes back, and that goes across the board, like you said. But even in the world of finance, like there's stuff that we're learning, right? Like 6 years ago, we didn't know as much as we do now because of the experiences, and we're taking chances and we're teaching ourselves. But we have people around us, so that was like the gift. It was like we're interviewing people, and as they're coming on, we're asking them questions, and we're like, yeah, okay, yeah, how do we do that? Okay, we can do this. Let's implement this. And so now our knowledge base becomes like at a super high level because we're taking the information, just being a lifelong learner. I remember when we were trading and derivatives came up, and I'm like, this derivative thing, like nobody ever talks about this, but
There's money.
let me look into this.
Some
All right?
money in
And
there.
then you start looking at it. We sit down with Mark Cuban and he tells us, I did this options trade and that's really how I made money to buy the Mavericks. And I'm like, you was trading options? It was a put call? All right.
So now for people watching this,
Yeah.
what's a derivative?
So a derivative is what you can trade. So like most people just think stock and you can own ownership in a company, but derivative is like an option or a future where it's almost a predictable asset class where I can say like the price of Apple will go up to 230 by a
So
certain
you're
time.
guessing a price.
Predicting. Guessing is in gambling, right? And then,
So you're using metrics and intel to
of course,
predict.
100%.
Not guess.
Right. And so those things are volatile in a sense where you can make a lot of money in a short period of time, or you can make a lot of money over a sustainable amount of time.
But you
maybe
could
a year
also
and a-
lose.
You could also lose money as well at a faster rate than you could in just owning one equity, right? So a share of a stock might go down 6%, right? But a derivative like an option might go in that same time might go down 16%. And so money gets lost faster. But it goes back to the education part. And especially with us, we're looking at it like, all right, I lost 16%. I ain't losing no more. I'm out of here. Well, I've seen that flip, right? Because the volatility, especially with economic factors and things like that, and this goes back to the education and studying. Like even today, before we came on, I'm looking at the CPI because I want to see
What's
what
CPI?
The consumer price index. So it's telling how much.
See, you can't just be throwing out acronyms, bro.
Yeah. So
come on, man.
I mean, literally before we came in, I'm
This
looking
ain't
at
the Earn Your Leisure podcast.
they want it's how much we're paying for the products that throughout our economy, and it breaks it down by categories. But I want to know that, right? Because I want to know if the Fed is going to say, all right, well, our interest rates are too high, let's bring them down, right? So September is a big month. They're saying that they might, because that's going to affect how we invest. It's going to affect how much money we put in, if we're going to see a pullback, if we're going to see a continued bullish market. So all these things are happening, and they can happen in an expedited time from a derivative standpoint, and you can make a lot more money than you would in just trading in a single equity, right? Apple goes up to 230, you make money. Apple goes to 230 inside the derivative market, and you get a higher percentage, you've obviously made more.
So you didn't like school, but you damn sure was paying attention to the math class. Because while we talk about the education system and all the shit that it obviously only gets you prepared for certain shit, you definitely, to even be playing around in this game, you still got to know basic math.
No, you definitely have. So, all right, here's my philosophy. Here's my philosophy on school.
There you go.
The things that.
Hold on, can I just preface this that this is a thought shared by Rashad Bilal, not an educator like myself. Shout out to all my teachers.
Most things in the grand scheme of things are useless. And history is my favorite subject, but I'm just saying most things. But what is important is learning how to read, learning how to write, and basic level math. If you learn those three things, you'll be fine. Because even math, you don't have to be a mathematical genius. You have to learn how to. They should actually teach kids how to use a calculator.
That's right.
Like, that's more beneficial. Like, even when I got into financial advising, I learned how to use a financial calculator. Most people have never even heard of a financial calculator before. Financial calculator is damn near a computer. And it's totally different than how you use a financial calculator is actually the opposite of how you use a regular calculator. Like a regular calculator, you do like 2 + 2 = 4. Like the financial calculator, you actually do the calculation backwards.
Yeah.
But
those are the calculators that the kids in what you call it in what was that called statistics used to have. They had the other calculators
that's
that
the
made
graphing. That's the Texas instrument. The graphing calculators where you have to put linear equations. And
right.
This is different.
This is something.
Oh,
else.
this is different.
Okay.
Yeah, this is different. Yeah.
But yeah, as long as you learn that, you're fine. So I say that to say a lot of times people make it too. It's not as complicated as we make it out to be. I feel like if you can learn every single rap lyric, like I learned every single rap lyric. I'm photographic memorizing all of these rap songs. You have enough intelligence to learn about stocks and real estate.
That's the bar right there. Like we walked into so many people. And I'm like, yo, this is the sixth element of hip hop. Like this is it, financial education, because we were able to memorize songs. I think that was one of the first things that we realized we had in common. Like we would just talk about songs, but we heard them differently. And when we would tell people, like we would decode it, like Jay had that book Decoded, we were like, y'all didn't hear that? But we did. And so that became the thing. It was like memorize, because you always want to be able to spit when you're in the lunchroom or something like that. We knew the songs. But like even in the world of learning, like I was able to memorize equations, so I was able to memorize formulas, then I was able to memorize information. So I don't come from a financial background. Like I said, I was teaching phys ed. Most of the people I used to work with were like, yo, when you coming back to work? You the gym teacher. We miss you, bro.
But in both for both of you, right? And the only reason I'm trying to understand how your brains work and do this for the audience is because I want people to see that it's not just a trip and stumble. Right? Like there's work that's been put in, and then there was people who poured into you as individuals, because on both sides, education was important.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Definitely.
Like, now what you decided to do, and your mom was like, yo, no, this is the type of time I'm on. You're like, nah, I'm rocking with what dad was doing. I'm going to take a piece of what mom was doing and what dad, and similar with you, right? Like, and so for the parents that are watching this conversation, exposure, right, to learning, to the terminology, to this way of thinking. Like when I'm sitting down with my 9-year-old and I'm talking about the properties that we own and how I'm paying taxes on it and why I bought where I bought and what was going on in the areas where I bought and where mass transportation is in the areas where we bought and what the city planning was around the areas where, all of those kind of things is just getting her brain to understand.
Yeah.
And also understanding capitalism, where everything in America is about making money.
Yeah, the long-term effects of that, you'll hopefully be able to see down the road. But there's going to be an effect, right? There's something about having your kid there, bringing them to the bank when you're paying the mortgage, or having them at the table when you're writing a check, so they can see it, so they can understand. Like, this won't be foreign to them by the time they're 16, 17. Creating accounts for them, letting them see what those accounts are doing, right? Custodial, so they can actually, all right, well, that's something I know, right? But what happens is, now that they know it, they tell their friends. And so, like, yeah, it's good to see mom and dad, but it's also to have peers. Like, I watched him be an entrepreneur since he was 21 years old. Like, I watched our other partner be an entrepreneur since he's 17 years old. I'm working 9 to 5. I'm like, yo, these guys have a lot of freedom. This becomes inspirational for me. Like, I don't know what it is to be an entrepreneur, but I can lean on them.
But then also, it's real-time education, too. So, yeah, a lot of it is, but, like, even now, I'm still learning, like, when I say my parents owned the house, a condo, I never lived in a house my whole entire, I'm building a house now. The house that I'm building now is the first house that I ever had that I'm living in, and I made a lot of mistakes with that, but a lot of it was unavoidable because I didn't have any reference point to, I didn't know. Like I said, I literally have never lived in a house ever in life. So you learn on the fly as well. So some of it you learn when you're a kid, but I don't want to discourage people because I feel like so much stuff you actually learn in real time. And even for us, like, we learning stuff every single day. We learn stuff, like, we make mistakes. And now it's like, okay, this is something that going forward, I'll never make that mistake again. But I had to go through that to actually realize all of the pitfalls.
A loss is a lesson, man.
Yeah, and it's happening in real time. That's the beautiful thing about it.
Y'all pay most of your bills from money made on the podcast or money made investing?
Well, not even neither. I don't touch my investments.
Yeah.
I've never. My goal is to never. I never want to touch my investment. That's my goal. The word podcast, we don't really have a podcast. We have a show, but the show.
But that platform, let's call
Yeah,
it.
no, that was just to kind of get our foot in the door. And, we never really looked at it. Like, we never wanted to be the biggest media personalities, nothing like that. So we do a variety of different stuff. Like, we have Invest Fest. We do educational curriculums. We have an online curriculum. We're doing stuff with schools. We got so many different things that we got going on, different side businesses. We invest in companies. So
there's many streams of revenue.
No, you got to have multiple streams of income because anything can happen. So, we look at it like it's a tree, but we got like 20 different branches off of that tree. So the show is cool. Definitely, we have YouTube. We have ads and stuff like that. But that's just really just a networking opportunity for us to kind of get our foot in the door and learn, meet great people. And then from there, it's like, you take the baton and then you got to run with it.
Yeah, and that's something valuable. Like, even for anybody listening, I never treat my brokerage account like a savings account. Like, I'm not going to that to take money from. That's there for a reason. And like you said, I'm not a day trader. So I want to see that money in there 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, have compound interest to see where it's at. And then eventually, obviously, we open up custodial accounts for our kids, have their money grow as well. Because that's one thing that we know we're going to need in this world. We're going to have income one way or the other. So to create some sustainable wealth for ourselves and for the next generation is vitally important.
Do you guys? So you're not a day trader. You're not a day trader either. And the reason I ask that is just because there's a lot of people who try to act like that's a something you just jump into. That is a full-time job.
No, it's a full-time job. You got to stay in front of the computer all day.
What Big said. Strictly for live men, not for freshmen.
No, that's some real shit.
That is the line you should think of before you start day trading. That is for people who have dedicated themselves to that, who have studied that. It is not for the faint of heart. So make sure, if that's something you are planning on doing or thinking about doing, have a mentor, get education around it before you start.
And is it true that in investing, if you see something that's too good to be true, it probably is?
I mean, that's life. That's life in general. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when something is too good.
Somebody tells you, give me $500, I can give you back $50,000 in 30 days.
And then
anytime there's a time limit, man.
When you in an investment and it just always goes up, it never goes down, that might be a Ponzi scheme. So always keep that in mind. If something is too good to be true, then there usually is. Because if that was the case, then everybody would do it.
Yeah. By the time we find out the information, think about how many people have had it, right? Like we talked about Nancy Pelosi. By the time she's made a trade, that doesn't get released to 31 days after she's made it. So they've already made it. By the time we get the information,
they done already got to it.
Oh, they done got it. Get ready for the rug pull.
Right. So for the voting public today, there's a lot being made. You guys have talked to Kamala. Who else politically have you guys interviewed on your podcast?
Well, we've had so we've been heavily connected with a lot of politicians. We went to Capitol Hill. We met with the Congressional Black Caucus. So Kamala, Jamal Bowman, that's our guy. So we connected with him a few times. Stacey Abrams. I mean, pretty much everybody at the Democratic Party outside the president that we've talked to.
And how do you feel about the current climate of heading into November? What are you guys seeing?
I feel like she has a lot of momentum. But previously, I thought there was no way that Donald Trump was going to lose. That was just my own personal opinion when Biden was running. But when Biden dropped out, I think it changed now. And now it's like a 50-50 race, I think. She has a lot of momentum. She has all the momentum. Trump don't really have momentum right now. She raised a lot of money. It's still not going to be easy for her. But I feel like it's a 50-50 race right now between her and Trump. So yeah, we'll see. That's my opinion.
Do you have a political stance?
I mean, I'm out for dead presidents to represent me. So, I feel like
So who's the best candidate for that?
Well, I feel like depending on how you look at it, I feel like Donald Trump is very dangerous. That's my own personal opinion. I just feel like he's dangerous on a few different levels.
Dangerous in a good way or a bad way?
There's only one dangerous.
Some people like dangerous. Some people like dangerous, though.
Dangerous.
You know what I'm saying? Some people like that.
That's a fact. But yeah, I just think that Trump is really dangerous. It's not even so much him. I think of the people around him. Right, because like I said,
Project 2025 and all that.
I think it's him too.
I don't think I just don't think that he fully believes in all the shit that he like. No, I don't think because he used to be a Democrat. He used to be
he's just out for the money. Guys.
Yeah,
let's not even. He wants to be in that seat.
He want to win
so that he don't have to deal with the other shit coming for him, and he can make his international plays and get to the bread like he was helping out. His son-in-law made billions in there.
But the Supreme Court thing is dangerous. That's something that has ripple effects, right? Like across, like if we're talking about access to capital, I don't know if you're familiar with the Freedom Fund.
Yep.
And so stuff like that, like, is dangerous. And police immunity, like that's really dangerous. Like
crazy.
That's wild.
So the ill shit I think that a lot of people miss. I forget the guy's name who led the thing against Harvard about race-based admissions. He's a lawyer, but he's like a conservative activist, Jewish lawyer.
Is it Bloom?
Bloom, Edward Bloom.
Yeah, Bloom, yeah.
So that set a precedent now where you done seen like in Georgia, they took the money, they had the Black Women's Entrepreneur Fund set up to give money to Black women. This man's a conservative, that's the Freedom Fund.
That's Freedom Fund, yeah. He was the person that led it.
And he led the whole thing to be like, nah, y'all can't just be giving money out to just Black women.
You know what's crazy?
The reality is like, if they don't create that fund, and we already know statistics of forget, we just talking about Black women.
Right.
Because that 1% we talking about is all women. Right, so that could be any woman, but like even a lesser percentage. If that fund's not created, then there is no guarantee. There is no way to say like, all right, we can assure that Black women are going to get this money. So yeah, it is dangerous.
I mean, it's like I used to live in Hawaii. I went to school in Hawaii for 2 years. In Hawaii, they have the Kamehameha schools. Kamehameha was the last king of Hawaii. Hawaii, for people who don't know, used to actually be a sovereign nation. They had a kingdom.
The Dole family and everybody over there went and took that from
yeah, so when America annexed the country and turned it into a state, it became part of America, but they had their own tradition, their own culture, and there's actually Hawaiians like that. There was a race of people that was Hawaiians. It kind of got mixed now with different Asians and whites and stuff like that. But they have a Kamehameha school. It was like the last public school for just you had to be a Hawaiian to go to the school, and it was like one of the top rated schools as far as academics. So a white family sued because they said it was discrimination, that their white kid couldn't go to Kamehameha school, and they won, and they kind of dismantled the whole thing. That kind of just speaks to a lot of the
danger you were speaking.
This is what I'm saying.
But it's interesting. Dangerous. It's like, how much do you want? You've already taken the whole entire country. Like you've taken a country and turned it into a state. You've totally gotten rid of these people's culture and even diminished their bloodline. The last thing that they have is a public school, and you take that. And it's like, for us, like, how much do you want? Like, we don't even have, we talking about access to capital, we have less than 1%, right? And Black women have probably less than a quarter of that 1%. It's not like they're a threat. We're not even a threat. It's not even a blimp on the radar. Yeah. And it's like, you want that, right? So it's like, that just shows you, like they say, don't kick a man while he's down. Well, that's when you're supposed to kick him. If you're really trying to hurt somebody, that's when you stomp somebody, you're supposed to kick him while he's down.
Do not provide
So it's
any
like,
opportunity.
we don't fully understand, like, they're not trying to just hurt us. They're trying to eradicate.
Yeah.
Erase.
Eradicate.
Finish
Finish it.
Everything.
And so if you look at the campaign, right, like as a black woman leading that, think about what that means to the other side. That's why I said, like, he had his stance. I always thought, even when Biden was running, I was like, this is going to be something that's going to happen, that they'll figure this out and this will change. And I thought Biden would win. And then some of the debates started happening, and I was like, all right, this is grave danger. And then obviously, we saw, him stepping down and her actually getting the nomination. What I'll say is this, that over the past 6 weeks, what we haven't seen, what we have seen for the first time is we're starting to see Trump make mistakes, right? Like, it might have been people questioning his vice presidential candidate.
He's always making mistakes.
I'm talking about grave ones.
It's being
grave ones.
highlighted,
Like,
yeah.
even now, the Elon Musk thing, that sounded like a great idea until you're talking about unions. Well, you start talking about unions.
No, not just talking about unions.
Like,
laughing at unions,
right,
about firing people for trying to start a union.
Now, so
Yo.
you getting that union talk? That's dangerous ground.
We was just talking about that this morning. I was like, y'all do
They're
know that
now.
he has to win Michigan.
But the union's not going to. But here's the thing: people will vote against their interest out of ignorance and hate.
Yes.
The Republicans have been anti-unions forever. This is the interesting thing about the anti-union thing.
In states that he needs.
But it doesn't even matter. They still going to vote for him because they rather vote against their interests rather than support a black woman. And it's interesting that they're so anti-union, but they support the police union. So my thing is, like, I'm not mad if you're anti-union. I can understand it. But if you're anti-union, you got to have that same level of anti-union for everything. So you're anti-union against motor workers, but you're the most pro-union in the world when it comes to police unions. How does that make sense? How do we pick and choose what union we want to support and what union we don't want to support? If you want to not support unions, every single union should be treated the same.
Yeah, but it's what's serving. When you look at the GOP, everything is about what's serving their end game of their voter base, which is to take control. If we're believing that Project 2025 is really like a plan. Mm-hmm. Is to take control of the federal government and then use that leverage to start to dismantle shit that gets in the way of corporate interests and get back to this money and deregulate, run these margins up and get, you know what I'm saying? And ride out.
Somebody had said something that was,
you're going to be in place right when that moment
But I do want to be fair about this. Republicans have a Project 25 and they published it for some reason. The Democrats have an agenda also.
Oh, for sure.
They haven't published it. Neither one of these.
Well, they said, Kamala hasn't put it up, but she has said multiple times she wants to continue the momentum that the Biden administration already had.
I'm not talking about I'm talking about the liberal, there's a liberal think tank.
Oh, yeah.
That has an overarching agenda. Neither one of these agendas are really geared towards black people. So that's just important to keep in mind.
Right.
I'm totally against the Project 2025 thing, but let's not just let the Democrats off the hook. They have an agenda.
Right.
They have things that they want to permeate in society. Both parties do. We just, their agenda is more hidden in plain sight. And it's things that you can't really speak about publicly, where the Republicans, they just put it out there.
Why can't you speak about it publicly?
Well, there's consequences for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I said, like even when Bowman, there was consequences for things that he did. Right. So,
but now we talk about AIPAC a lot, which has, and just because I know what it is, and I know that their only interest is Israel, right, and whatever's going to benefit that, right. And then there's people who have their identity tied to a nation. Right, but live here in the United States, but may not necessarily agree with that government. Just like over in Israel, you got mass protests against Netanyahu and mad people speaking out against this whole thing. But AIPAC, which has the money, is able to control the voice. So
it's like
in the United States.
Don People said to us, and he made a great point, right? Where it's like, DEI, the DEI thing is a real thing right now, right? And the Republican side is to get rid of DEI, and the Democratic side is to like push DEI. But even that, the Democrats have done a tremendous job of just having this inclusion thing for something that didn't need to have inclusion. Where he was like, this whole affirmative action, all of that was for originally when it first started, was for Black Americans and Native Americans.
That's right.
Native Americans because they took the land, Black Americans because they built the land for free. Mm-hmm. those are the two people that America owes a debt to. They don't owe a debt to white women. They don't owe a debt to any immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
The immigrants.
But those people will co-opt the movement just for their own gains.
Well,
or get included inside of it.
But
Yeah.
who included that though?
Right.
Who included every single group of people? That's the Democratic Party. They included every single group of people that you can think of, right?
Right.
And
Or
diluted.
didn't exclude.
Right.
Right? Like it was left, the loophole was left there in the civil rights legislation and these other things.
So that's an agenda.
yeah.
Right.
That's an agenda,
And
right?
if you do that, you grow your base.
That's an agenda to just tack on. I'm gonna tack on this group. I'm gonna
Right.
tack on this group. Things that don't even have anything to do with you're not. You would never. How should you benefit from this, right? Like, how should you benefit from this when your family made a decision to come to America? How should you benefit from this just because you're a white woman? How should you benefit from this because your sexual orientation? Now, I'm not saying anything is wrong with that, but this was not meant for that. This was never meant for that. This was meant for...
And because they probably couldn't pass other legislation, they made this a catch-all legislation.
Well, that's a problem.
Right.
Right? So I just think that we have to look at this thing from a non-emotional standpoint and look at it like both parties have an agenda. And both parties' agenda is fueled by interest that is not going to benefit us. It never really has benefited us. To be honest with you, that's why
When
we're in
you
the same
get down,
spot.
and I often talk about this, when you get down to the raw numbers of, black people representing 14% of the population, right? And you getting into actually, like you just said, Democrats trying to build their base of
Or a larger
growing
one.
Hispanics and growing this group and growing that
They
group. to
just do
keep their
all the fringe. Every fringe just
Right,
come
and
with
just-
us.
We
and
need
they
y'all.
and they put that coalition of voters together,
Right.
Then you, as somebody like me, I got to make a decision. Which coalition do I feel most comfortable with? Which takes you back to when you walk into that ballot box,
Yeah.
where it's like that coalition over there. Y'all way too crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Like I can't fuck with y'all. Right, and so going back to what I said earlier, I'm a registered independent. I've been that for the longest, but I end up voting for Democrats, especially on the federal level, because I can't trust this other shit y'all up to. The other thing I can't trust is a majority of black folks still live in the South, in states where the only protection they have is the federal government. So when you hear somebody being like, "Oh, we'll leave it to the states," whoa, Jackson, Mississippi can't just be left to Mississippi State.
Fair.
Like that's the problem. Mobile,
Especially
you know
when they're run by
Montgomery.
religious crazies
Well, and
or
then
white
boom, and then
supremacists. Hello.
But it does get emotional, right? It does get emotional, and that's the tough part. So November's gonna be interesting.
It is, man. And I'm excited for it. Because I told people either way, no matter who you vote for, make sure that you have the education around finance, because either way,
Take care
you're
of
going to have
yourself,
to make money.
Well, and not only that, you're gonna have to protect yourself.
And you're going to have
Yeah.
to protect yourself,
Yeah, and your family.
Listen, Rashad, Troy, it's been a great conversation, man.
I appreciate
Thank
you having us.
man. This is
Yeah, man.
fun.
Invest Fest, August
your
23rd to the
tickets.
25th down in Atlanta. Y'all flying anybody down? Is there some sort of?
What's your schedule look like,
Is
man?
this,
Y'all
well, no,
good?
not me, not me. But I'm saying, like, can I get like a earn your leisure getaway to give away where y'all, hotel flights, hotels? Y'all got money now. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not sure what he speaks of.
You can't have a podcast. Y'all talking about all this money,
Yeah,
and
nah.
then y'all not flying nobody down.
Nah, Lord knows what it is to have a festival. She knows that.
But there's not an Invest Fest.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to have a
scholarship
festival.
program.
Yeah, we give away tickets. We
Invest Fest grants.
Can we?
Yeah.
Can we can say a lot? Oh, yeah, we
have a
actually.
few grants.
I wanted to say that before we leave. I definitely want to. One of the reasons why we even started this was Nipsey Hussle was a great inspiration to us. So we never got a chance to meet him, but we developed great relationships with his family. So we're giving away $100,000 in the name of Nipsey. We got a pitch competition, and his brother, Black Sam, is going to be there. Lauren London is going to be there. JP is going to be there. So Marathon, we did a collab with Marathon. So shout out to Sam. I just saw his interview with Big Boy. It's dope.
Classic.
Very,
Very
very dope
classic.
interview. But Sam is a very solid guy, super cool dude. So definitely wanted to put that out there because that was something that we've never done before.
Yeah.
And
That's going to change somebody's life.
Yeah,
sure.
and we got 100 kids coming down from New York City
Yes,
to
I
Invest
love that.
Fest. Yeah,
See,
shout out
that's why I
Representative
needed
Riley.
to hear right now. Y'all,
Yeah,
y'all
Chantel Jackson, what up?
Represent, talking about all this money.
Yeah,
y'all not taking care of nobody.
man, of
No,
course.
for
We got
sure.
100 coming from New York City. We got about 40 coming from our neighborhood just because, we want them to see where something can start from as the origins in that small town to something as huge as having 50,000 people come through the weekend. So we wanted to see it in real time, and hopefully they'll take something from it and their trajectory as far as financial education to be so much greater than us.
But I appreciate you having me, man. This was a dope conversation, man. Very intelligent. So I appreciate y'all.
Nah, man, it's
Thank
love,
you,
man.
guys.
That's what we try to do. Y'all give it up. Earn Your Leisure. If you're not checking out their podcast, you're interviewing or interested in trying to get your money up, go check them out. You know what I mean?
Appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all.